The rain battered the windows of our Brooklyn apartment, a relentless drumbeat that mirrored the chaos in my chest. I stood frozen, watching Ethan stumble through the door, his dark hair plastered to his forehead, green eyes glassy with whiskey and something darker jealousy. Maybe, or something I'd never dared name. He looked at me, and in that single, searing glance, for years of buried feelings clawed their way to the surface, threatening to ruin everything. I'd loved Ethan Caldwell since the day we met. Freshman at NYU. Both awkward and broke. Splitting a tiny dorm room with peeling paint and dreams too big for our wallets. Back then, he was all easy smiles and late-night talks. His voice a warm anchor in the dark, promising we'd conquer the world together. But I, Lucas Nguyen, was the quiet one, hiding my heart behind sketchbooks and half-finished poems. Terrified of the truth, I was in love with my best friend, and he'd never love me back. Tonight, though, something was different. Ethan had been at some bar in the East Village, drowning his sorrows after seeing me laugh with Sam, a coworker who'd been flirting shamelessly at our gallery opening. I hadn't meant to spark anything. Sam was just a friend, but Ethan's texts had grown sharp, erratic, and now here he was, soaked and swaying, staring at me like I'd betrayed him. "You're mine," he slurred, his voice low, raw, like a confession torn from somewhere deep. My breath caught, and the room spun. Was this real, or just the alcohol talking? I steadied him, guiding him to the couch, his damp jacket clinging to his broad shoulders. "Ethan, you're drunk. You don't mean that." My voice trembled, betraying the hope I'd spent years burying. He grabbed my wrist, his grip firm but not harsh, his eyes searching mine with an intensity that made my skin burn. "Don't tell me what I mean, Lucas," he said, his words slurring but fierce. "I saw you with him, smiling, like you used to smile at me." My heart pounded, a traitor giving me away. I wanted to scream that I'd never stopped smiling at him, that every sketch in my notebook, every late-night coffee run, every stupid joke we shared was laced with a love I couldn't voice. But fear held me back, fear of ruining the fragile balance of our friendship. Fear of losing the one person who made New York feel like home. "You're imagining things," I said, pulling my hand free, though every nerve in my body begged to stay close. "Let's get you some water." He didn't let go. Instead, he leaned closer, his breath warm against my cheek, whiskey and rain mingling in the air between us. "You don't get it, do you?" he murmured, his voice softer now, almost broken. "It's always been you, Lucas. Always." The words hit like a lightning strike, electric and dangerous, and for a moment, I let myself believe them. But doubt crept in, cold and familiar. He was drunk. He was jealous. Tomorrow, he'd wake up, laugh it off, and I'd be left picking up the pieces of my heart again. I turned away, busying myself with grabbing a glass from the kitchen, trying to ignore the way my hands shook. Our apartment was small, cluttered with memories. The thrift store lamp we fought over, the Polaroids pinned to the fridge, Ethan's guitar leaning against the wall. Every corner held a piece of us, a life we'd built without ever crossing that line. But tonight, that line felt like a tightrope, and I was one step from falling. "Lucas," he called, his voice steadier now, though still rough with emotion. I glanced back, and he was sitting up, running a hand through his wet hair, looking more like himself but no less intense. I'm not just drunk. I mean it. I've been a coward. Okay. But seeing you with Sam, it killed me. I can't keep pretending I don't feel this. I froze, the glass slipping from my fingers and clattering into the sink. My mind raced, replaying every moment we'd shared, the nights we stayed up watching old movies, the way he'd drape his arm over my shoulder like it was nothing, the times I caught him staring and convinced myself it was just friendship. Could he really feel the same? Or was this a fleeting moment, a crack in the facade that would seal shut by morning? Ethan, don't, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. Don't say things you'll regret. But he was already standing, closing the distance between us, his presence overwhelming. He stopped inches away, his hand hovering near my face, as if afraid to touch me but desperate to try. I regret not saying it sooner, he said, his voice low and trembling. I regret letting you think you're just my roommate. You're everything. Lucas. The air felt too thick, too heavy with possibility. I wanted to believe him, to lean into his touch and let the world fall away. But years of guarding my heart made me hesitate. What if this was a mistake? What if I opened myself up, only to lose him? You're not thinking straight, I said, stepping back, though every part of me screamed to stay. Sleep it off. We'll talk tomorrow. His face fell, a flicker of hurt crossing his features. But he didn't argue. He nodded, slow and resigned, and sank back onto the couch. Fine, he muttered, his voice barely audible. But I'm not giving up on this. On us. I turned away, my chest tight, and busied myself with cleaning up, trying to drown out the hope and fear warring inside me. As I dimmed the lights and left him to sleep, I couldn't shake the feeling that tonight had changed everything, and I wasn't ready for what came next. Morning light crept through the blinds, painting stripes across Ethan's sleeping form on the couch. He looked peaceful, almost boyish, his dark lashes fanned against his cheeks, one arm slung over the edge like he was reaching for something or someone. I stood there, coffee mug in hand, wrestling with the memory of his words. You're everything. Lucas. They echoed in my head, taunting me with a hope I wasn't sure I could trust. I'd barely slept, my mind replaying the night before in agonizing detail. Ethan's confession, slurred but searing, had cracked open a door I'd kept locked for years. But now, in the sober light of day, doubt gnawed at me. What if he didn't remember? What if he did, but regretted it? I set the mug down, my hands unsteady, and tried to focus on the mundane making breakfast, checking emails anything to avoid the truth sitting heavy in my chest. I wanted him to mean it. The couch creaked, and Ethan stirred, groaning as he rubbed his eyes. God, my head, he muttered, sitting up slowly. His gaze landed on me, and for a moment, neither of us spoke. The air felt fragile, like one wrong word could shatter it. Morning, I said, aiming for casual but landing somewhere closer to nervous. Coffee's on the counter. You, feeling okay? He squinted at me, his expression unreadable, then ran a hand through his messy hair. Did I make a complete ass of myself last night? He asked, his voice rough but laced with a cautious edge, like he was testing the waters. My stomach twisted. Did he not remember? Or was he giving me an out? A way to pretend nothing had happened? I forced a smile, my heart sinking. You were pretty out of it, I said, dodging the real question. Nothing new there. He didn't laugh. Instead, he stood, wincing slightly, and crossed the room to where I stood by the kitchen counter. "Lucas," he said, his voice softer now. I meant what I said. My breath hitched, and I gripped the counter to steady myself. "You were drunk," I countered, my voice barely steady. "People say things when they're drunk." He shook his head, stepping closer, his green eyes piercing. "Not this. Not about you." I wanted to believe him, but fear was a stubborn thing, rooted deep after years of silence. "Ethan, you can't just say stuff like that and expect me to." I stopped, my words tangling. Expect me to what? To confess that I'd loved him since that first night we stayed up talking about our dreams. To admit I'd sketched his face 100 times. Each line a secret I couldn't voice. He reached out, his hand brushing my arm, and the touch sent a jolt through me. "I'm not expecting anything," he said. "I just need you to know I'm serious. I've been serious for a long time." The room felt too small, the weight of his words pressing against me. I turned away, busying myself with pouring coffee I didn't want, my mind racing. "Why now?" I asked, my voice quieter than I meant. "Why after all this time?" He hesitated, and when he spoke, his voice was raw. "Because I was scared. Scared of messing this up. Scared you didn't feel the same. But seeing you with Sam last night, it hit me. I can't keep pretending I don't want you." My heart lurched, but doubt lingered, sharp and cold. "You were jealous," I said, turning to face him. "That's not the same as." I couldn't finish. "Love." The word felt too big, too dangerous. Ethan's jaw tightened, but his eyes stayed soft, pleading. "It's not just jealousy, Lucas. It's everything. The way you laugh at my terrible jokes. The way you leave your sketches everywhere. The way you make this place feel like home. I'm in love with you." The confession hung between us, raw and unguarded. I wanted to reach for him, to close the distance and let myself fall. But the weight of 4 years held me back. What if this was a moment, not a promise? What if we tried and failed, and I lost him for good? "I need time," I said finally, my voice barely above a whisper. "This is a lot." Ethan nodded, his expression a mix of hope and resignation. "Take all the time you need," he said. "I'm not going anywhere." The rest of the day passed in a blur of awkward silences and stolen glances. Ethan left for work at the record store, and I buried myself in my art, sketching furiously to drown out the chaos in my head. But every line I drew turned into him, his eyes, his hands, the curve of his smile. By evening, I couldn't take it anymore. I grabbed my jacket and headed to the gallery where I worked, hoping distance would clear my mind. But as I stepped into the cool night air, my phone buzzed with a text from Ethan. "Can we talk tonight? I don't want to lose you." My fingers hovered over the screen, unsure how to respond. I wanted to say yes, to run back and tell him everything. But fear kept me frozen. As I walked through the crowded streets, the city's pulse seemed to echo my own frantic, uncertain, alive with possibility. I didn't know what I'd say when I saw him again. But one thing was clear. There was no going back to the way things were. The gallery was quiet, the kind of stillness that amplifies every thought you're trying to avoid. I stood in front of a half-finished canvas, my brush hovering, Ethan's text burning a hole in my pocket. "Can we talk tonight?" I don't want to lose you. The words felt like a lifeline and a trap, pulling me toward a truth I wasn't sure I could face. I'd always found refuge in art, a way to pour out the feelings I couldn't say aloud. Tonight, though, the canvas mocked me, its blank spaces reflecting the uncertainty in my heart. I'd loved Ethan for years, but love wasn't simple, it was messy, terrifying, a leap into the unknown. What if he changed his mind? What if I wasn't enough? The questions swirled, relentless, until a voice broke through. You look like you're fighting a war in there, Sam said, leaning against the doorway, his easy grin a stark contrast to my turmoil. I forced a smile, setting the brush down. Just thinking, I said, hoping he wouldn't press. Sam was a good guy, kind, funny, with a knack for making everyone feel seen, but he wasn't Ethan. He never could be. About that guy from last night? Sam asked, his tone light but probing. I stiffened, caught off guard. Ethan's just my roommate, I said, too quickly, and Sam raised an eyebrow. Sure, he said, smirking. But the way he looked at you, that wasn't just roommates. His words hit too close, stirring the chaos I'd been trying to suppress. I mumbled an excuse and slipped out, needing air, needing space. The streets of Manhattan were alive with noise horns blaring, laughter spilling from bars, but all I could hear was Ethan's voice. I'm in love with you. I walked aimlessly, my feet carrying me toward the record store where Ethan worked, as if my heart had made the decision before my head could catch up. When I pushed open the door, the bell jingled, and Ethan looked up from behind the counter, his face lighting up in a way that made my chest ache. Lucas, he said, surprised, setting down a stack of vinyls. What are you doing here? I opened my mouth, but nothing came out. I'd spent years hiding my feelings, and now, faced with the chance to speak, I was paralyzed. I got your text, I said finally, my voice unsteady. Can we talk now? He nodded, leading me to a quiet corner of the store, where old jazz records lined the walls. The air smelled of dust and nostalgia, and for a moment, felt like we were back in our dorm, sharing secrets in the dark. I meant every word, Ethan said before I could speak, his voice low but steady. I know I screwed up, waiting this long, letting you think I didn't care. But I do. Lucas. I always have. My throat tightened, and I looked away, focusing on a cracked record sleeve to keep from falling apart. Why didn't you say anything? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. All these years, I thought I was alone in this. Ethan's eyes softened, and he stepped closer, his hand brushing mine. You were never alone, he said. I was just too damn scared to admit it. I thought if I said it out loud, I'd lose you. But keeping quiet didn't make it hurt any less. His words broke something in me, a dam I'd built to hold back years of longing. I looked at him, really looked, and saw the same fear and hope I'd been carrying. I've loved you since freshman year, I admitted, the words spilling out before I could stop them. Every day, every stupid moment we've shared, it's been you. But I'm terrified. Ethan, what if this ruins us? He reached for my hand, his grip warm and certain. It won't, he said, his voice fierce with conviction. I don't know what happens next, but I know I want you in my life. Lucas, as more than my roommate, as everything. The world seemed to pause, the store fading away until it was just us. Standing on the edge of something new. I leaned in, my forehead resting against his. And for the first time, I let myself believe we could be more. But life isn't a movie, and happy endings don't come without complications. As we left the store, hand in hand, a voice called out Sam, standing across the street, his expression a mix of surprise and hurt. "Lucas," he said, his voice carrying over the traffic. Ethan's grip tightened, and I felt the tension ripple through him. The night wasn't over, and the road ahead was anything but clear. Sam's voice cut through the night like a blade, sharp and unexpected. Ethan's hand tightened around mine, his jaw set, but I could feel the tremor in his grip, a mix of protectiveness and fear. I turned to face Sam, my heart racing, caught between the man I loved and the friend I'd never meant to hurt. "Sam." "Hey," I said, my voice unsteady, trying to defuse the tension. He crossed the street, his usual easygoing demeanor replaced by something raw, unguarded. "So, this is why you've been dodging me," he said, glancing at Ethan's hand in mine. His tone wasn't angry, but the hurt in his eyes was unmistakable. "I thought we had something, Lucas. Guess I was wrong." Guilt twisted in my gut. Sam had been kind, attentive, and I'd let his flirtations linger, too afraid to shut them down outright. "I'm sorry," I said, meaning it. "I should have been clearer. You're a great guy." But I glanced at Ethan, his green eyes fixed on me, steady and warm. My heart's been somewhere else for a long time. Sam nodded, his shoulders slumping slightly. "Yeah, I see that now," he said, managing a small, bittersweet smile. "Take care of him, okay?" he added, looking at Ethan. Ethan's expression softened, and he nodded. "I will," he said, his voice quiet but firm. Sam turned and walked away, disappearing into the city's glow, leaving a silence that felt both heavy and freeing. Ethan and I stood there, the weight of the moment settling over us. "You okay?" he asked, his thumb brushing over my knuckles. I nodded, though my chest was tight with a mix of relief and fear. "I didn't mean to hurt him," I said, "but I don't want to hide anymore. Not with you." Ethan's face broke into a smile, soft and unguarded, and he pulled me close, his arms wrapping around me like a promise. "No more hiding," he murmured, his breath warm against my temple. Back at our apartment, the rain had stopped, leaving the air crisp and new. We sat on the couch, closer than we'd ever dared before, our knees touching, the space between us charged with possibility. "So, what now?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Ethan laughed, a low, warm sound that made my heart skip. "Now, we figure it out," he said. "Together. No more secrets. No more running. Just us." The days that followed were a blur of first kisses, tentative and sweet, stolen in the quiet of our kitchen. First mornings waking up tangled together, sunlight spilling over us. First fights, small and human, but always ending with apologies and laughter. It wasn't perfect. There were moments of doubt, old fears creeping in. But each time, Ethan's steady presence grounded me. We were building something real, something worth fighting for. One night, a month later, we stood on the rooftop of our building, the Manhattan skyline glittering below. Ethan handed me a sketchbook, his expression nervous but hopeful. "Open it," he said. Inside were pages filled with his handwriting notes. Lyrics. Fragments of thoughts about me. About us. "I've been writing about you for years," he admitted, his cheeks flushing. "I just didn't know how to say it until now." Tears pricked my eyes as I read his words, each one a piece of the heart he'd kept hidden. I set the book down and kissed him, slow and deep, the city humming around us. "I love you," I said, the words no longer heavy but light. Free. "I love you too," he whispered back. And in that moment, I knew we'd found our way. Our story wasn't just about love, it was about courage. About choosing to be seen. To be vulnerable. Even when it scared us. We'd spent years orbiting each other, afraid to crash. But now, standing together, we were whole. The world wasn't always kind. But with Ethan by my side, I felt ready to face it. And as we stood there, hand in hand, I realized the greatest risk wasn't loving him, it was never trying at all.